Hello, my name is David Shoemaker. I am a financial aid manager here at Student Financial Services at West Virginia University. We appreciate you viewing the Federal Work-Study Onboarding PowerPoint for the 21-22 academic year. We will be sharing resources and information with you to help you successfully onboard your student worker. Let's go ahead and get started. The purpose, process, and payoff statement for onboarding your work studies. We will be introducing the onboarding process for federal work-study employees. We'll be discussing flexible work patterns, if applicable, expectations, and record-keeping practices. And lastly, we will review rules and procedures for all of your work-study employees. Flexible work patterns. To continue to permit flexible work patterns for the 21-22 academic year, you may allow work-study employees to work in a hybrid or remote work format. Supervisors who can accommodate remote work under their current job description or through a modified job description must complete the Federal Work-Study Remote Work Form. If your job description is not changed from last year, you do not need to submit a second remote work form. If you allow remote work, please review the Remote Work Checklist for more information on equipment, monitoring work, recording time, and to ensure your department or agency is following appropriate confidentiality practices. The Federal Work-Study Onboarding Process. Use the information in the following slides to set your student and yourself up for success for the entire year through an effective onboarding process. To help with this portion of the presentation, we invited a third-year work-study student to share their perspective and more information on how to successfully onboard a student worker.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie. I am a current work-study student going into my third year utilizing the Federal Work-Study resource here at the university. I will be going over the next two slides to discuss with you how to effectively introduce your work-study students to the workplace, as well as the importance of communicating your department's expectations with your student employee. As your new work-study students arrive, you should introduce them to the workplace environment and atmosphere. Because students may arrive to their position with minimal job experience, it's important to develop your relationship with them through a proper introduction and warm welcoming. Another aspect of their introduction to the workplace is the discussion of their specific job duties and responsibilities. You may decide to have a signed Federal Work-Study agreement. An example of this document can be found in the training manual located within the Supervisor section of the Federal Work-Study website. Finally, if your work-study student will be handling confidential records, personally identifiable information, or money and funds, you will need to conduct the appropriate training. To do this, please refer to your specific office for policies and procedures and the appropriate guidance. In effort to lessen conflict and misunderstandings, you should clearly outline and communicate your expectations for your student employee while they hold their position. First, establish a tentative work schedule and provide procedures for how the student will report tardiness or absences. If applicable to your position, inform them about your dress code. You should also discuss with them a clear policy for employee conduct at work. If they are working remotely, you will want to ensure that their duties have been fully explained and that they have access to all the necessary tools and systems to efficiently and effectively carry out their job duties. Finally, it's important to let the student know that any injury that occurs while on the job must be reported to you immediately.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Let's discuss time record keeping. You will want to have a conversation with your student worker explaining how they will record time. This may be from a specific location or system. For students who will work remotely, please provide the student with resources on how to set up the university's VPN on their computer. Employees that work off-campus or remotely must log into the VPN prior to clocking in and out with Applaud. For assistance in using Applaud, please contact Shared Services. If you're having any issues with the VPN, contact ITS. Also, you must explain to the student they will be paid for hours worked and they are not permitted to study or complete classwork during their shift. WVU off-campus community partners must use the community partner timesheet to reconcile their students' time worked. This is due every Friday and it must be submitted to the work-study email address shown on the slide. Failure to provide this timesheet may result in your work-study receiving inaccurate pay or no pay at all. As mentioned in the previous slide, The work-study student should be clocking in and out via Applaud after connecting to the VPN network. Please review the Supervisor Handbook for additional instructions and resources. Monitoring federal work-study employees. Use the information in this section to ensure that the student and you understand all of the rules of the federal work-study program. As a condition of participation, it is the department or agency's responsibility to ensure compliance. As a federal work-study supervisor, you will want to have a conversation with your work studies, explaining permissible work hours. Students may work up to 20 hours per week while classes are in session. During periods of non-instruction, students can work up to 40 hours per week. Both the student and supervisor will be notified of periods in which a student can work more than 20 hours per week. If a student is employed both as a federal work-study employee and as a traditional departmental student worker, the total hours worked still applies to both positions. During periods of instruction, the student cannot exceed 20 hours per week between both jobs. No work is permitted during university holidays or when the university is closed. The last day of employment for the 21-22 academic year is the last day of finals of the spring semester. It is very important to understand the rules and regulations of when your students will receive a break while working. A student working a consecutive 4-hour period should receive a 15-minute break with pay. A student working a 6 to 8 hour period is entitled to 2 15-minute breaks with pay and no less than a 30-minute lunch break without pay. The student must clock out for the unpaid lunch break. You must ensure that the time submitted or reviewed is reflective of these policies. Paid breaks may not be taken at the beginning or at the end of the work period, and they are not cumulative. Breaks should be taken at a time when they will not place an undue burden on the department or agency. Assigning work. Determine a method for assigning work tasks in person, whether it's verbal or written. For remote or hybrid work, the assigned work must be documented. This may be through email, chat such as Teams or Messenger, a shared work file, or recorded phone calls. For those with remote or hybrid student workers, you will want to create an action plan on how to monitor work performed versus time submitted. A few examples to consider are implementing check-ins at different times throughout the day. You can also create a detailed spreadsheet that the student worker is responsible for updating as they complete daily tasks. If the student's work is to be performed online, you can use a digital system to measure their online activity and time they spend away from their desk. Student Financial Services may request a copy of your method for monitoring for auditing purposes. Tracking work-study allocation. The student cannot earn more than the federal work-study award amount allocated. Supervisors and students are notified during the hiring process of how much the student is eligible to earn. If this amount changes, both the student and supervisor will be notified. It is the student and supervisor's responsibility to maintain a record of the student's gross earnings. Both the student and supervisor should utilize the Tracking Custom Salary form to track the student's earnings. Progressive discipline and termination. Discipline is intended to assist the employee in improving their job performance. If there is a disciplinary problem with a student employee, repercussions can range from a verbal correction or written warning with terms and conditions of continued employment to termination. In the event of a student fraudulently recording time, please notify the WVU Hub. If a supervisor would like to discuss disciplinary options, they may contact WVU Employee Relations for more information. If you have any questions about the onboarding process or the Federal Work-Study program, you can submit a ticket to the WVU Hub. We will be glad to assist you. We appreciate your participation and interest in the Federal Work-Study program. Thank you.